everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Roller Pigeon Evolution. My name is Smitty, I'm your host, and my co-host Danny Castillo. Say hi to the folks, Danny.
What's up, guys?
So today we're going to talk a little more in depth into color. We've had a couple of our subscribers ask some really in-depth questions about color, so I'm going to try to scratch the surface a little bit and go into a little more depth on it. So right here we've got stencil. Take a good look at those beauties. Those are stencil lace. Right here, we've got what a lot of people call white bar, but is actually created by Opal. Here, some more Opal checks. Opal check there, and we've got a little black hand. And she'll come into play later on in the video. We come down to the second level here, and these are both Andalusians. One is very light Andalusian, and the other one is a very dark Andalusian. These right here are what they call indigo checks. That's an indigo check. Looks like a dark bronze or red checker. It is actually indigo. Here's another indigo check. And on the end is another indigo check. And there is some significance to the fact that I'm bringing all these birds out. Over here on the bottom, if you take a look at these little beauties right here, these are what look like they're carrying reduce. They're actually lace. This right here is the exact same thing. These are what they call silver lace. Again, we've got two more lace here. And on the end, got another lace cockbird right here. So we're gonna start off with the stencils. So let me grab one of these stencils out of here. And so when you look at the stencil, beautifully outlined feathers. And you notice each feather is outlined. You look at the tail. This is a juvenile, so this tail isn't grown in perfectly, but look at that, just beautiful. So a lot of colors that people are really interested in rollers didn't start in rollers. Stencil, this particular pattern design did not come from a roller. There's two kinds of stencil. There's stencil, there's frill stencil, and there's stencil lace. Now, or excuse me, frill stencil and I forgot the other stencil.
We'll get back to it.
We'll get back to it. But there are two stencils. I'll remember the other stencil. So let's look at Opal. Opal is what most people call white bar. Opal is the gene that actually creates white bar. We have Opal bar, you have Opal check. And one of the things that you'll see on a lot of opals is that the bars tend to be dirty instead of white. And if you look at mine, they're pretty clean. Let's do this again. There's no brown in the bars. They're pretty clean. That takes work. It takes a long time to get it that way. You can obviously buy it from somebody that's already established and that has it that way, but when you're starting off to produce roll opposed to color, it takes a long time because I started off with opals that didn't have great color and then worked it into opals that had better color. We're gonna come down to the indigo checks. So one of the questions they ask is, how do you produce Andalusians? What colors do you cross together in order to make it? And one of the things that I want to be really clear is you have to start off with indigo. That's what indigo looks like. The other thing, there's a tail in indigo. You look in the tail, and there's a bar that goes across the tail, starting right there. Exactly. A lot of birds that carry indigo have that bar. They show it. Let's look at this one right here. See if it carries or shows the bar. Yeah, there it is. Very prominent in this particular bird. And this is an indigo check also. Let's look at the last one and see it. That's one of the hazards of raising pigeons. They will poop on you. And you look at the tail, again, you see that bar straight across. It's like a light pattern that goes through horizontally. That's a tail of indigo. So now, if I want to produce Andalusians. And again, you got two different color or two different shades of Andalusian here. Is the dark Andalusian and the lighter one. It's the same color, just one comes out light, one comes out dark. This is how you would do that. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna take your black hen, try to get a dark black. It works on checker or black checker, but you want to try to stick with the blacks to get a uniform color, and you would mate her to an indigo. And that's a beautiful specimen right there. So that pair right there, you're going to get babies that look like the cock, and you're going to get babies that look like this.
Oh, all right.
By putting indigo to black. If you put indigo to checker, your chances are you're going to get more of the indigo checks, but you will get some Andalusians. Now, let's move on to the lace. Now, the lace are very, very tricky. Somebody asked a question, and they said they were having inconsistency in lace. And I take it as that the birds are not producing lace on a very consistent basis. So if they're not producing lace, get a helicopter there. If they're not producing lace, what they're producing is either red or black, I would understand. So I ran into this same issue. So this little bird, if you've seen birds that carry reduce, they tend to look like this. This is not a reduce. This came off of two lace birds. So they produce a color that is almost identical to reduce, and it's not. It is a totally different setup. So if you take a reduce and a lace and put them together, they produce you blacks and reds. If you take a stencil and put it to a black, you will get blacks. That's what they'll produce you. Mm-hmm. You have to go in and out roughly about 7 generations to get a uniform pattern for stencil. Because keep in mind, these birds started with a frill stencil, and the frill stencil is a bird that is not a roller at all. It has a very short beak, comes with a crest a lot of the times, and the feathers are curled. They don't lay flat like this, they're curled. And the difference between the frill stencil and the stencil lace is one has a wide pattern, one has a very narrow pattern. But those are the two, if I'm not mistaken, those are the two the two types of stencils that they use to create the ones in roller. Now these ones were actually started by James Turner. They go back to James Turner's birds, that's my understanding. But take a look down here. Again, dark lace, lighter lace on the other side. But these are all the exact same. Now, you want to talk about creating what you want and building your bird. If you look, I'm going to do some switching around here just to show you guys an ideal characteristic versus characteristic that you don't want. How to keep it, how to get rid of it. So if you look at these two little hens.
These here?
Yeah. Beautiful little hens. But I have some siblings off the same birds that are not so attractive. And they've got some flaws. And when we talk about those flaws, you know what you have to remove from your breeding program or keep in your breeding program. If you notice, these birds over here are clear-eyed. They're both orange-eyed. You look over here, these two little youngsters, looks like one of them may be bull-eyed. You look at the eye, it has the white over the eye. Whenever you have white over the eye, you have a huge chance, a huge percentage of being bull-eyed. So this one looks like it's gonna be bull-eyed. So a little bird like this, it has white flights, it has white on top of the head, and it's probably going to be bull-eyed. So would this be a good candidate for a stock bird? Absolutely not. So this definitely would not be a stock bird. You look at the sibling, uniform markings, no white on it, no white over the eyes. Looks like the eyes are going to be clear. This would definitely be a stock bird. So when you're breeding, you want to find specific traits and characteristics that you want in your birds, and you breed toward that. You find traits and characteristics that you don't want in your birds, and you remove them from that. If you want your birds to be solids, you don't breed birds that have white tips and badges and whatever. If you want birds to be white tipped, again, if you look right here, both of these birds white tipped, and they have white markings close to their eyes.
So when you have white markings close to the eyes, more chances are you're going to end up with the bull-eyed bird.
Exactly. Now, is a bull-eyed bird any less valuable, or is it going to roll any less? No, absolutely not. It's a personal preference, period. No difference. And that pretty much concludes our show today on color. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Hit the like button, tell a friend, and remember, you only know what you know.
Alright guys, next time.
I lost so many times in the past, but I ain't learned to slow down, I keep it on the gas. These niggas hands out for the cheese, you a rat. You wanna see who really ballin', you can check the stats.